Welcome back, everyone. Now that my best of 2017 list is finally out of the way and the book is closed on that year, let's get into some movies from 2018, starting with Mom and Dad.
Hey, can I go to a movie with Riley tonight?
With Riley?
Your grandparents are coming for dinner tonight, remember?
Awesome. Grandpa telling his disgusting Vietnam stories.
Take my advice, don't ever have kids.
Everything just revolves around you, doesn't it?
Yeah, whatever.
Now, this is a movie from director Brian Taylor of the Neville Dean and Taylor dynamic duo who brought us such hits as Crank, Crank 2, and Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, I believe is the title. But Brian Taylor and Mark Neville Dean have gone their separate ways and are making their own standalone films. And if these are the type of movies we're getting, like Mom and Dad, and like something I'm forgetting from Mark Neville Dean, I would really love to see them come back together, because Mom and Dad is not that good. It's one of those movies that has a great sense of self-awareness, but it still struggles to connect with what it's going for. The movie does have a lot of comedy to it, a lot of Crank-esque action sequences with these incredibly over-the-top sequences of violence, bloody violence, people getting killed in hilariously over-the-top ways.
1, 2, clear.
But somehow, Mom and Dad makes its premise boring. And the premise is basically that all the parents in this small town start to turn on their kids. There's some kind of TV, radio wave, mumbo jumbo that makes all the mothers and fathers in this small town want to murder their children.
What's the rush today? It's like you're waiting for a buffet.
What's going on? Is that McKenna's mom?
Multiple reports are now coming in of parents murdering their own children.
Listen to me. We have to get out of the house before Mom and Dad come home.
And that's a great stomping ground to have amazingly over-the-top action sequences. And for the most part, Brian Taylor delivers on the idea of these great action sequences, but without the help of another director like Mark Neville Dean.
He really risks his life doing these things on rollerblades with the camera and hanging off of wires.
2, 1, go!
Sometimes Brian Taylor's direction is so bad and poorly shot that these action scenes are basically incomprehensible. There's some times where I was like, what was that? What just happened? And the movie's so quickly paced that it would move on from one scene to another so fast that you wouldn't have time to think about it or ask questions about it. And this helps undercut the movie to where a lot of scenes don't feel like they have the proper weight that Brian Taylor wants them to have. Because if you move too quickly past a comedic moment or action sequences, that effect of that joke or the sequence does not have its full effect. You know, you hear in comedy a lot where you have to let jokes breathe. You have to give them time to permeate with the audience, to find roots with an audience. But if you tell the joke and move on too quickly, then a lot of people will just miss it. And that's what happens here with Mom and Dad. The action sequences move so fast that you never get a sense of place, or you never get a sense of location. You never get a sense of tension with the action scenes, because they're so quick cutting and so shaky and poorly shot that it's very hard to tell what's happening more times than not. And I think this is, again, where Mark Neville Dean could come in and create something new with this material. And the interesting comparison to make with Crank and Mom and Dad is that Crank also moves incredibly quickly, but it gives you time to think about and dwell on what happens, whereas Mom and Dad just doesn't. And a lot of times, that hurts the movie.
right foot out! You do the hokey and you...
This is my biggest flaw with Mom and Dad, is that it has such a great idea, but it executes the idea so poorly that more times than not, I was left wondering how I was supposed to feel. And this is especially highlighted by the music choices in this movie. There's this incredibly odd collaboration of rock, heavy metal, and dubstep electronic music, to where a lot of the scenes seem to come off more serious than they maybe should. The music, the way it's shot, the performances, make a lot of scenes feel like they're supposed to be serious, even though we just watched Nicolas Cage running around with a knife trying to kill his kids and slip on a toy truck and fall through a chandelier and onto a glass table and through a window, or whatever it may be. These hilarious scenes that are completely undercut by poor filming and poor music choices. And this probably would be okay and maybe passable if there was something else to latch onto here, but there just isn't. There's no interesting characters, and the plot goes literally nowhere and has no ending of any significance. It literally ends in the middle of a sentence.
Sometimes we just want to...
So with no ending, with no characters, and no plot, the only thing to attach yourself to is the hilariously over-the-top action sequences that the movie promised. And those aren't all there either. So what is there actually to like about this movie? Now, I will say that when the action scenes are executed properly, they work amazingly well. There's a scene near the end where Nicolas Cage and his wife, Selma Blair, I don't remember her name, are closing in on the kids with a sawzall and a knife, and they're about to chop the kids up, and they hear a doorbell, and they say, "Oh no, our mom and dad are coming. We gotta go greet them." So they go to the door, and they open it, and it's these two elderly people with knives that start stabbing Nicolas Cage, and they want to kill Nicolas Cage. So you get this incredibly hilarious sequence of these elderly people trying to kill Nicolas Cage, who is trying to kill his kids.
Your claws off me, you goddamn filthy dinosaur!
Nicolas Cage is being attacked by his parents while he's trying to attack the kids, and his wife is defending him, saying, "You can't kill your own son," but they're trying to kill their kids. So there's a lot of dramatic irony to this scene that works incredibly well, and the action is hilarious and over the top. But again, this is one scene in an hour-and-a-half movie that's full of stops and starts. It's full of action scenes that are amazing and terrible. So I don't know how to feel necessarily about this movie. I want to like it. I really want to like it. There's some hilarious scenes in here that make it worth watching, but there's some just horrible, cringeworthy, terribly executed scenes that made me want to turn it off more times than not. So
You're going to open the door! This is a really great idea, honey.
I forgot your parents.
That was tonight.
overall, I don't think it's a particularly good movie, and I don't know if I could really recommend it. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. If the idea sounds interesting to you, if you like Nicolas Cage, if you like trashy action movies, you may get a kick out of this one, because it is incredibly off the wall and gonzo in some good ways, but the movie feels like it has a lot of unnecessary baggage that weighs it down heavily, and it turns a really great, unique concept that could have some really inspired scenes into a movie that is chock full of terrible scenes. So that's all I have to say about that. If you liked the video, leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, whatever, you know what to do. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.